It's the local news you expect from the area's #1 local news source, and it's all absolutely free. Now you have even more ways to access DeWittDailyNews.com. Whether you're at your desktop, laptop, tablet, iPhone, or smartphone, DeWittDailyNews.com is delivered to all those platforms. That's right. It's even there on your iPhone and smartphone. The same local news, weather, and sports that's on the full-size edition is on your iPhone and smartphone just by going to DeWittDailyNews.com. If you haven't tried it, why don't you go to Central Illinois' leading online source for local news, police blotter, for the record information, obituaries, and more on your desktop, laptop, iPhone, or smartphone, DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in this segment of the program is Curt Homann. He is the Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council. Good morning, Curt. Thanks for coming out and talking with us here this morning. And I know that I caught up with you last week at the Chamber of Commerce Business Expo.
Absolutely.
Recap your time at the Expo with me.
Yeah, you know, it's for me, it's always a great time to be there because a lot of business owners are all in the same room. Mm-hmm. So it just makes, you know, what I do every week, which is visit a lot of business owners, a little bit easier that week when they're all there. Mm-hmm. But it did have a great opportunity to talk with several that were there and several people that came up even from the community that just want to know a little more about DCDC. So glad to share that, and it was a great event. Once again, a great event for sure.
I am not remembering, Curt. I know I asked you, were there businesses in attendance that day that you hadn't been able to get in front of and talk to? Was that the case? Were you able to get in front of those folks? How about those conversations?
There were a couple that I had not been able to get in front of. More of who was there that I don't typically go see is some of the ambulance service, the sheriff's department. You know, those are a big part of all those services. Obviously, are a big part of our county. It's just not on my scope. So it's nice to stop by and say hello to some of those folks as well. But most of the businesses that I see fairly regularly were there, and I did get to say hello and solidify, see if there's anything new that was going on in their world as well.
You know, you mentioned the police, the fire, the ambulance, those sorts of things. Those are vital when you're trying to sell a community and you're trying to bring in economic development, and we have great services of those across the board. So it's really about what they do, not necessarily how you can help them. So what does that conversation look like?
Yeah,
if you don't mind me asking?
No, so I will just from a personal experience, my father moved south for many years for warmer climate, and as he's aged and needs a little more assistance, he's moved back to Central Illinois where his kids are, and a big consideration was ambulance and medical services. So did he want to live in a town, because when you're older you need those services more frequently, and would he want to move to a town without those services? And the answer is probably not. So those do play an important role for sure,
no question.
But most of those conversations there were just, hi, here's who I am, appreciate what you do. Yeah, those types of things. So,
there you go. There you go. Very good. Well, when it comes to the established relationships that you have in the county, like how is that going? What are you hearing from people that make a difference in the business community and the things that they have to say? What did you hear from them?
Well, I would say just in general that what I do is relationship building for sure. So, I pick up on details over time, for the most part. So it's pretty rare unless something drastic has happened that someone will say, oh my gosh, this is the case. It is more, I can pick up trends maybe. So, we look at, we're certainly in an inflationary time, or certainly had been, and how that's affected businesses, or does that mean sales have gone down? The cost of goods have certainly gone up, expenses have gone up, and really addressing, if we can, some of those issues. Right. I get frustrated, going to some of the fast food places and think, oh my gosh, it's so darn expensive. Well, their costs have gone up substantially as well. So all of that has been passed on to us as a consumer. Yeah. And how has that affected, their business? And can I, an individual or even the director of DCDC do anything about the cost of hamburger, and the reality is I cannot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. Is that probably the biggest issue facing our business community right now? Is that inflationary piece?
Inflation, and I would still say employment is still tricky as well too. Finding enough people to fill available time slots as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, what can a group like DCDC do about that employment piece? Is there anything you can do?
Yeah, I'm going to be reaching out to workforce employment again, and kind of having that conversation in terms of additional training for folks in the county to learn maybe new skills or different skills. But it's challenging. I mean, all I can do is potentially help a business spread the word, that, hey, they have this position available. I have had discussions with businesses regarding, pay, benefits, those types of things. And a business can do what they can do, and they have their own systems. But, so some of those things get factored in, but we'll have those conversations for sure.
From your perspective, what has happened to our workforce? Where are our workers?
It's a great question. So, the workforce, there's a lot of competition for employees, and for sure. And, many of those employees have taken, maybe higher paying, better paying roles that maybe weren't available 10 years ago because there wasn't such a demand for workers. I don't think it's any... I don't think it's a reflection on anything else. Sometimes they say, well, nobody wants to work anymore. I don't believe that. I certainly don't believe that. You do.
Yeah, you have to work, especially in these times when everything's so expensive. You have to work.
If someone just won the $1 billion lottery, hey, I get it. But that's not everyone, clearly.
Right.
So, people have to work. They're working somewhere. They're making an income somewhere. So, a business has to be competitive in many ways, whether it's pay is only one of those factors, convenience, the situation at the workforce. I mean, is it a very negative place? Is it a positive place? Do people value their employees, in other ways other than pay? I mean, there's so many factors that go into that make a difference from an employee perspective where somebody wants to work. Someone that dreads going to work every day is going to look for something else, even if it pays a little bit less.
Yeah. Curt Homann, Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council, is our guest in studio today. I feel like we've really touched on a gem topic here, Curt, because one thing I know you work closely with is potential entrepreneurs. And, I wonder if you are noticing if there's anything that's telling you, for a while, that question of where are all the workers, it was the COVID benefits. A lot of people attributed it to those are keeping people at home. They don't have to go to work because they're getting those and that sort of thing. We're so far past all of that, I feel like that's not the issue anymore. And I wonder, is it people are creating their own businesses? They're creating their own side hustles. Maybe they've found a work-from-home employment option that isn't necessarily local, but it is keeping them away from finding that local job. What do you think about that?
I would say all of the above, and in many regards. But there's a factor with, again, the inflation. If childcare services aren't available or extraordinarily expensive, that might keep one of the parents at home, and especially if they have a side hustle or a work from home option. As well. There are certainly people, I can tell you people have certainly opened the idea to a entrepreneurial spirit throughout COVID. And with the time they had at home, they enjoyed the time at home. They probably, many of them picked up a few side hustles, a few $100s a month or whatever it is. So I believe we are in a gig economy. And have been for some time.
What do you mean by that?
Where people need that side hustle. So it's they may have their regular job, but they're also mowing on weekends or whatever it is. But they're picking up that that hustle business to fund some, many cases, needed dollars for increased expenses. So
I wonder if we've been in that for long enough where that side hustle has become something they can just do primarily.
For some,
Yeah.
For some, yes. Others won't, but for some, they've looked at that. They've had positive experience. They've grown that experience, and they want to turn that into a more permanent business. And in fact, I'll meet with someone this week that is indeed the case. They have a full-time job. They have a side hustle that's done well, and they're ready to expand that side hustle. So
you kind of led me right there. So what can the DCDC do for that person?
Well, for that individual, a lot of it is location and planning, and making sure they've got all their ducks in a row. Make sure they really understand what it means to go from being an employee to an entrepreneur, and all the good and the bad that can go along with that. So a lot of it's the preparation work, the encouragement. Of course, we talk about grants. We talk about budget. So I want them to lay out a budget as much as possible.
Yeah.
And again, I've said this 100 times, but the last thing I want to see is someone jump into a new business. Only not to be prepared for it, close the business, maybe get divorced, maybe, all these other, horrible impacts.
Yeah.
I want to make sure they know as much as possible what's going to happen when they open the doors, and they're prepared for the good and the bad.
Sure.
Sure.
Well, Curt, I look at the clock. We could take a break here, so let's do that. Did I miss anything kind of in that conversation of, the employment piece and where workers are? And, that I thought that was a really great topic. Did I miss anything there that comes to mind for you?
No, I don't think so. And I think after the segment, we can talk a little bit more about what DC does for individuals. So kind of give you my schedule a little bit.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do that. Curt Homann is the Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council, our guest in studio. More to come with Curt on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Hey there, it's Ramey Miller, personal and business coach, and also owner of Run Deep Coaching, and a Taylorville native now living in the Northern Illinois area. I have the pleasure of helping people strengthen the relationship with themselves and others virtually, no matter where they are. Seeing what's possible for people is the highlight of my job. For example, I support people through job transitions, relationship changes, and developing new habits. Recently, I hosted a workshop and people walked away with hope, courage, feeling worthy and seen. I would love to connect with you. Feel free to reach out for a virtual complimentary 60-minute conversation to see if it's a good fit to work together one-on-one, or we can just simply discuss any upcoming events. My website is www.rundeepcoaching.com. That's www.rundeepcoaching.com. I am sending you so much support.
Thank you for listening to this Miller Media Group radio station. We appreciate you making the choice to tune in to us. We want to remind you of some things to keep the attorneys happy. Our stations allow one winner per household in a 30-day period. Cash prizes are mailed to our winners within 30 days of winning. And as you've probably already guessed, portions of today's programming on this Miller Media Group radio station were pre-recorded and are mechanically or digitally reproduced. There. Now we've made the attorneys happy. Thanks again for listening to this Miller Media Group station.
For the latest in Central Illinois agricultural news, visit IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Get updated information on markets, weather, ag news, local interviews with NAFB farm broadcaster Jared White, and much, much more. All at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Connexus will provide local, reliable, affordable, and speed-of-light fiber internet to Clinton. Get on the install list now by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Fiber internet is coming to Clinton. Get on the install list now.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Curt Homann is the Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council, my guest in studio here for this morning. Curt, we were talking there in that last segment about, finding the workforce, finding workers. Where have they gone? What are they doing now? And many are starting their own businesses. And so we talked about what the DCDC can do for those individuals. You mentioned you're meeting with some folks interested in doing just that, starting their own businesses here this week. What's kind of coming up for you? What do you have on your calendar?
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting point. I actually will speak with 2 additional new business owners for DeWitt County as well this week, and one of those is absolutely a go, and the other one is about 85%. So we're working through the especially the 85%. We're working through the planning stages on that. But I also will be this week. I'll be learning more about SBA loans. So I'm going to go to an SBA training meeting.
What's SBA?
And it's Small Business Administration. DCDC in itself, we don't handle small business administration loans by any means, but it is important that I know what programs are out there, and they're government backed small business loans, and a small business. What you and I might consider to be a small business is probably tiny compared to the real number that the government looks at a small business. I mean, it's millions of dollars. So and then I'll do some work with the CEO program this week. I am a mentor there, and also I get to talk about my life experience with one of the days with the class with them. So those are kind of the highlights of the week, but all in all, a very, very productive
that CEO.
week.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. That CEO program, I want to know your experience with that. Is this by the way, is this your first year mentoring?
So it is my first year mentoring.
Yeah,
yes.
How's that going?
Actually, really well. I've enjoyed it immensely, and I hope the kids have too. Hope me enjoyed immensely me being there.
Yeah.
DCDC was, from history, DCDC funded half of the startup cost.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize
for that program. So, and that's been several years ago. So we've always had a vested interest in making sure the CEO program is strong, and we're excited that it is. But I've really enjoyed the time as a mentor, and I'm looking forward to this week. It's amazing that the year is coming to a conclusion here in the next. It's already April, so.
Yeah, I feel like that program exemplifies what the DCDC and not necessarily DCDC, but development is. You make an investment in that young person that's in high school, and you may not see the fruits of that investment for them for years and years and years, but that's what development and you're kind of working on is, you'll put in time and effort and frustration and all this stuff and lose sleep and all these things. And you may not see the benefit of all of that for a year, 2 years beyond.
Well, the thing that's interesting with the CEO program in particular is, these kids are going to get something out of that program, whether they end up being entrepreneurs or not. I mean, it's amazing the difference between class 1, and the last class of the year. They're just stronger, more confident individuals, whether they ever open up a business or not. The other real benefit to that is many of those kids look at where they're going to live, and their expectation of where they're going to live, and it's a relatively small percentage that say they're going to stay in DeWitt County. At the end of the year, that number has increased substantially. So it may have gone from 25% maybe to 75%. So the benefit, the other benefit is we have kids and families eventually that are staying in the area where we had them leave before. So that's a success. Even if we just have a consumer and a taxpayer and a job, even if they never ever open a business, I mean that's a substantial business or a benefit to the CEO program.
Yeah, point well made and well said, I think, as well. I wonder. When they come in next, we've caught them at the front end of the school year this year. Normally we have them on the back side of the school year, but in future visits, I should ask that question of, do you plan to stay in DeWitt County? And if your mind changed, what changed your mind? Do you hear from those kids on that at all?
That's not one that really comes up through time, but what I do pick up on is the kids are having to have experiences with our local businesses as well. So really the impact is they realize there's a lot more here than they ever realized. So when they do site visits to businesses or talk to business owners, they realize there's a lot more going on in DeWitt County than they thought as a 15-year-old or 16-year-old before they were exposed to that. What specifically changes their mind, I'm not sure, but I think that's a critical piece of it.
I would really be curious what it is. I'll ask that next time I see a few of those kids. When it comes to just that program itself, they're kind of in the midst of starting their own business. That's one thing they have to do is they start their own business and that sort of thing. From your perspective, what is your message to whether it's your mentee, is that the word, mentee, or
mentee, I would say.
Yeah, or the class in general that you'll present to? What's your message to them on that?
It's interesting. It's a little bit different with DCDC because there's no real negative ramifications if the CEO program business fails. In fact, I don't always think that's bad because you learn a lot from mistakes that you made. Yeah. And again, there's no real financial impact to those students, which is way different than than the real world when you're trying to feed your family and pay your household expenses. So obviously we got to be a lot more cautious, but always it's go in prepared and go in as smart as you can be. And also then you can focus all your time on paper and preparation, and it ultimately comes out to getting out there and doing it. So if you want to shovel snow in the winter, and all you spend your time on is making signs and you don't own a shovel, you're never gonna get that job done.
Yeah, good point. Well, Curt, I look at the clock, about a minute here with you this morning. Anything kind of coming up on your calendar or things you've got going on that's worth highlighting here real fast?
Well, it's summertime is always busy. Once again, the April 20th is the Illinois rowing event at Clinton Lake, so that's an exciting the Business Expo with the Chamber. I want to thank them for all the work that they do with that. Farmer City's going to do one in June. It'll be their inaugural one. I'm excited for that. Of course, I'm a big part of horse racing with the DeWitt County Fair. So believe it or not, preparing for that. Actually got a call from the state of Illinois horse racing head guy last week. We had a great conversation as well. So,
nice.
but yeah, things are it's always busy for sure.
Yep. That Farmer City Raceway season coming up. Yep. As well. I'm sure they've got. I saw some racing in Lincoln a few weeks ago, actually, or last weekend.
Believe
maybe.
So. Yeah. And believe it or not, there's a little bit of talk about a downtown winter event here in Clinton as well. So I'm going to go into a meeting on that.
Yeah, a lot of things happening. I'm sure your plate is full, Curt. We appreciate you making time for us here on the WHOW Morning Show that streams live to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance.
WHOW.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason. Former President Trump says it's another example of a lack of respect foreign leaders show to President Biden. Mr. Trump pointing to the Mexican president's demand for